Exempt Chapter 7.
This is my first trip to New York City. During my high school days and later at Duke, guys would talk about their trip with their parents. They told of walking down Broadway and seeing sights that did not exist in Wake Forest, that's for sure. If my mother or father caught me looking at what they described, my butt would be sore for weeks. That is not what excited me about seeing the city, but the expectation of what Mr. Nelson said and the manner he told me, as though something vital would be revealed. Saturday morning, I got up at 5 a.m., showered, dressed, ate a quick bowl of cereal, poured a cup of coffee, toasted an English muffin spread with strawberry jam, then called for a taxi to pick me up at 6, so I would have plenty of time. I parked my car in the driveway to make it appear I was home, left a light on upstairs, and turned on the television. The taxi pulled up. Now I am off for a new adventure. The train station is crowded. I expected only a few people because it is Saturday. I purchased my ticket, watched trains and people who seemed to flow in and out of the station in waves. I lived a very sheltered life. I thought sitting there, not only is this my first trip to New York City, it is my first train ride. When you are young, everything has a first time. It seems like many firsts this day. I wonder what Mr. Nelson has to say. The train was exactly on time. It pulled into the station blowing its whistle at 6:48 a.m. People are swarming off, and those lined up to get on, pushing to get into the car they desired. Most people wanted to get into the car next to the dining car. I asked the clerk about seating. He told me the best seating and on which side of the car I would get the best view. I took my seat on the right-hand side of the car facing forward. Promptly, at 7:05, the whistle blew, and the train slowly jerked forward. To me, this is exciting. This giant mechanical monster is taking me to the city. I am off to see the wizard following the yellow brick road. In my case, it is the shining steel tracks. I have no idea what is on the other end of this road. The train pulled into Grand Central at 9:15 a.m. The passengers had already lined up at each door to depart. They must be in an awful hurry as everyone looks anxious about something. I did not want to get pushed in the stampede, so I waited until everyone in my car departed. This gave me time to look around to check if anyone seemed to be following me. None of those people care if I am alive. I looked at each face. All were totally indifferent to me or anyone else around. They are on a mission that did not involve me. Following the directions Mr. Nelson gave, I went over to a newspaper stand, picked up the Times, opened it, and peered over the top. There are thousands of people coming and going. How would I know if anyone was after me, and why should they be? I think he is being dramatic, trying to impress me. I followed the crowd out the exit, looking down a canyon of buildings, the tallest structures I ever saw. This must be AZ, tall buildings reaching so high in the sky their heads touch the clouds. Why anyone would work up there, I cannot fathom. What happens when elevators fail? I must appear like a country boy coming to the big city, standing here in the center of the sidewalk staring up. If someone is following me, they will have no problem. I am the only person not moving. Finding the Commodore Hotel was easy. It is next door. This is the hotel where Senator Kennedy gave his New York City address 4 weeks ago. I wonder if that is why Mr. Nelson asked me to meet him here. The imposing building is shaped like a giant H, 2 large ends connected by a smaller center. When I entered the front doors, peering into a lobby that is larger than any I ever seen, so massive the entire Sterling Law Building at Yale could fit inside. Makes me feel small as I wander around trying to be casual, observing all the people to determine if someone is following me. No one is. I am certain as I picked up the house phone and dialed 1240. Hello, Richard. You were right on time. Take the elevator in the section off to the right-hand side of the lobby to the 12th floor. 1240 is down the corridor. In a few minutes, I knocked on the door and it opened with a man saying,
"Hi, Richard. Matt Nelson. Please call me Matt, not Mr. Nelson. Sir is more aggravating. This is your first time in the city."
Yes, Matt. I am in awe of the seemingly endless throngs, the giant towers, streets jammed with traffic. Not Wake Forest for sure.
Right you are. Come sit down. Want some tea or coffee?
No, thank you. Only to understand why I am here?
Richard, I was gone a long time. I am not sure how much Thomas told you, but whatever he said is not sufficient. I was lost, a worthless husband and father. My desire is to make it up to my family. Thomas values your friendship. You are his rock. There are many things you will learn from what I discovered. I trust you will use this information wisely. Before I show you our report, Richard, I would like to show you the home grounds of the players involved. Feel like walking 10 miles?
No! I would rather take a taxi if you don't mind. Outside the lobby, there is no shortage of taxis. They are lined up like a swarm of yellow jackets waiting to sting those idiot tourists. The doorman signaled and a taxi promptly pulled up. We got in the back, Matt said. Driver, we are going down to Wall Street, go down Park to Broadway all the way. Okay? Yes, sir. The driver seemed a little aggravated that he cannot take the longer, more expensive route on the shoreline. I sit here, craning my neck, trying to see the tops of the buildings. Impossible unless I poke my head out the window.
Relax, Richard. It's only a few miles. Driver let us out at John St. Let's walk down here, Richard. I want you to see the New York Stock Exchange, the Federal Reserve Bank, and Morgan Stanley. They have almost finished the construction on the Chase Manhattan building. Richard, this is the NYSE, or New York Stock Exchange. This is where the banks change paper into money, mostly for their own benefit. Look up at the facade and the imposing statues. Do you know what that figure represents?
I have no idea.
The central figure is integrity, protecting the works of mankind. What an oxymoron that is, integrity. If you could find even 1 ounce of integrity in that building, it would be like Abraham trying to find one good man in Sodom. Let's walk up Nassau Street and see the Federal Reserve Building. This is the central bank in the United States. The name Federal Reserve is a misnomer. This bank is not federal in any way. It is owned by the banks I am going to show you. This bank controls the money supply, which allows them to issue the currency of the United States. They actually control our currency, then require the United States to pay them interest on the currency of this nation. Does that make sense to you? Most of the owners of this Federal Reserve Bank are not American, but foreign interests controlling the currency of our sovereign nation. To me, that is unthinkable.
Matt, I have found in the last few years that nothing is as it seems.
Right, you are there, Richard. You are going to see more than you can imagine in the next few hours. We are going back on Wall Street now to the Morgan Stanley Bank, then over to the new Chase Manhattan building. We will get a taxi back uptown to the Papa Bear, I call it, JP Morgan Bank. Have you noticed that the largest, most imposing buildings in cities are banks? You know how they get all that money they just created out of thin air. They do not need to have actual dollars or gold in reserve. They only need debt. Debt is their key to the kingdom. The more debt they can obligate governments, businesses, or consumers to incur, the more money they are allowed to create. Yes, it sounds crazy, but that is what they call fractional reserve banking. For every dollar of reserves in the bank, they are allowed to loan out an additional $10, a 10-to-1 ratio. Each new loan is an asset, and now they can create another 10-to-1 ration loan, never-ending supply of money for them. This is how these banks are able to build these massive structures. They don't earn the 8% interest they charge on a loan. They earn 80%. Think what you could do if you could get an 80% guaranteed return on your money. One more building I want you to make note of as we return to Midtown is 120 Broadway. Atop that building sits the Bankers Club. Inside is the important Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Many players in the story I'm about to tell you have offices here or next door. President Roosevelt kept an office in this building. Richard, look closely at the next 2 banks I will show you. Tell me if either of these are the banks your Uncle Stan is associated with.
Matt, I sincerely appreciate what you are doing. It is in my best interest. However, I cannot and will not dishonor the confidence placed in me. I have told Uncle Stan I will not divulge any of our business. I want to understand everything, but don't ask me to betray my trust.
Okay, Richard. I understand and respect your position. I would feel the same way. Let's get a taxi and head back to the hotel. We can see the JP Morgan Bank, park from the hotel, have lunch, and go over my report. Richard, this is what I am talking about. That 52-story glass-enclosed monument to greed is JP Morgan Chase Bank. The building says more about what is inside than I can.
We went back to the Commodore and into the grill. Matt asked the maitre d' to give us a corner table where it is quiet. Of course, sir, right this way. He led us to a table, placing 2 menus for us. The special of the day, he started to say, but Matt cut him off. No thanks. We will order from the menu." His nose went up a bit, and it appeared he felt he was being diminished. Matt, as do I, prefer simpler foods. Specials tend to get a little saucy. The waiter came and asked if we were ready to order. I said, "A club sandwich with fruit on the side and coffee to drink." Matt ordered a ham and cheese omelet with hash brown potatoes and sliced tomatoes with coffee to drink.
I work with men I served side by side in the Airborne Rangers in Korea and Feet Benning. Some of our group served in intel as well. Ranger units survive on intel. We are asked to penetrate enemy lines, to provide intel to the force commander. Those who serve together form a strong bond. Like a band of brothers, that is how our new agency is able to get answers to even classified questions rapidly. We go through the ranks. We call someone who should be in the loop, so to speak, as brother to brother. If they cannot provide the answer, they know someone who can. The question soon covers the globe and the answer is provided. Think of us as a huge checkerboard with all squares connected. No starting point and no end, just continuous. When I put out the question of who are those people on the list you gave Thomas, I got back a quick reply, 2 words, powerful and ruthless.
That's what my father had told me. Nothing new. Most powerful people are ruthless, or they would not be powerful.
Ruthless enough to take over the United States and form a military dictatorship.
Are you saying that my friends did that?
Not directly. What I have is a report I was able to confirm. It does not mention the names of your friends, only their association. First, let's finish our lunch. Go up to my room. I don't want to say too much here in public about this.
As I sit here looking at Matt, I wonder if this man is real. Thomas told me he had been drunk for years. Now he sits here looking like a professional investigator or CIA man or something more sinister. Whatever he really is, he would be a formidable opponent for anyone to have. I suddenly lost my appetite and only want to see what he has to show me. Matt had no such qualms. He finished his food as if he had not eaten in days, drank the hot coffee in 2 swallows, motioned the waiter to bring the check, and said to me, "You got half a sandwich left. Not hungry." Not now, as I asked the waiter to put the leftovers in a box, which he was pleased to do. Matt signed the check. We headed for the elevator. Matt's room looked out over Park, which gave me a great view of the skyline of New York. My mind is so preoccupied since arriving, I didn't even notice my surroundings. There is a table with 2 chairs in front of the window. Matt asked me to sit. He went to his briefcase, took out a stack of papers and joined me. He separated the papers and put in front of me a 4-page report with the bold heading, "Plot to Overthrow FDR's America." Those words caught my attention. I took my time reading the report. This report was first prepared by Marine Major General Smedley Butler. General Butler was a 2-time Medal of Honor recipient, one of the most decorated Marines in history, a man of impeccable credentials. The plotter selected General Butler to become dictator of the United States because of the loyalty of the military troops towards him. They knew he could rally 1,000,000 soldiers to his side. He was to be like Mussolini in Italy, used by the new fascist corporate government. The plot failed only because General Butler exposed it and presented his report to the United States Congressional Special Committee on Un-American Activities, whose chairman was John W. McCormack and vice chairman Samuel Durstein. The plot is funded by Morgan and DuPont money through the American Liberty League, which in turn received donations from Standard Oil, U.S. Steel, General Motors, Chase Manhattan Bank, Goodyear, the DuPont family, and others. Butler is the famous hero they needed to sell to the public. They wanted General Butler to deliver an ultimatum to President Roosevelt. Roosevelt, in turn for not being killed, would pretend to be too ill from his polio to handle his day-to-day duties. He would appoint a newly formed cabinet officer, a Secretary of General Affairs, to run the affairs of state in his place. That new cabinet officer is to be General Smedley Butler, who would be carrying out the orders from Wall Street. If Roosevelt refused, General Butler would bring up to 1,000,000 veterans from the American Legion to force Roosevelt to comply. They fully believed Roosevelt would comply without force. Just the threat would suffice. General Butler was told, "You know, the American people will swallow the story. We have the newspapers. We will start a campaign that Roosevelt's health is failing. Everyone can tell by looking at him. The dumb American people will fall for it in a second." Gerald McGuire is the man selected to recruit General Butler. McGuire is an agent for Richard S. Clark, one of the richest bankers on Wall Street at the time. General Butler asked for confirmation from McGuire's superiors. General Butler is then contacted directly by Richard S. Clark and Grayson Murphy, a director of Goodyear, Bethlehem Steel, and a group of J.P. Morgan banks. General Butler asked for and received written confirmation of the coup and the role he would play in it. When General Butler had his confirmation of the plot, he took it to Congress to the committee headed by John W. McCormick. McCormick sent a copy of the report to President Roosevelt. Roosevelt told them to proceed with the inquiry as he was very interested and knew General Butler to be an honest man. As soon as the press heard that the committee would subpoena some of the most powerful men in the nation, the headline screamed, "Hoax," by a disgruntled soldier. Butler was made to look like a fool. Vice Chairman Durstein told reporters, "Butler has the evidence. He will not make these charges unless he has something to back them up. We'll have men here with bigger names than he has shown." The papers printed that, however, they ended the article with Grayson Murphy denying any involvement, saying, "It is an absolute lie." The committee withheld most of the testimony which was taken in closed-door hearings. Whatever occurred behind those closed doors was handled by the White House. Roosevelt had caught his enemies in an act of treason. He now had the means to control their actions.
This, Richard, is but a summary of the report, however. It is enough to show the lengths wealthy, powerful men will go to preserve their wealth and power. You were told that Senator Kennedy is not their man, and you are not to show him any support. Is that correct, Matt asked?
Yes, that is correct. Your report does not name or even mention Stan or Morris, so how are they connected to this?
I don't know if they are connected to the same people as are in this report. That does not mean they share the same objectives as these people do. One thing we did learn is that these people still have the same goal, just different tack to accomplish it. Today, they simply buy what they want to control or use interlocking directorship of various entities. We are still trying to determine the scope of their power. The investigation will continue. The war now being started in Southeast Asia is entirely being plotted here in New York by many of the same players. We want to learn why. What I suggest you tell Senator Kennedy is to be careful in choosing the advisors he surrounds himself with. From the work you and Thomas have been involved with, it looks to us the colored people will support Kennedy in the South. That will be enough for him to win this election. I heard rumors and am still checking if a rift exists between some of the biggest bankers. Several do not agree with the takeover of America. If there is such a divide, perhaps your Uncle Stan is trying to set up an outlet to warn people of the dangers of a fascist-led government. That is what these bankers want. Read this letter that Ambassador Dodd, who was ambassador to Germany in 1936, wrote to President Roosevelt. A clique of U.S. individuals is hell-bent to bring a fascist state to supplant our democratic government and is working closely with the fascist regime in Germany and Italy. I had plenty of opportunities in my post in Berlin to witness how close some of our American ruling families are to the Nazi regime. I was told point blank by the director of one of the largest corporations in America that they are ready to take direct action to bring about a fascist regime into America if President Roosevelt continued his policies. These folks have not given up their objective of that, I am certain. There seems to be a web, like a spider would weave, connecting these powerful families to almost every major corporation, every newspaper, all media outlets, most politicians, the military leaders, and principal universities. We put many people working on this to find out who is behind this. There is always the head of a snake, and we want to learn its name. This snake seems determined to have another 1 million people slaughtered in Southeast Asia. Those are our brothers dying. Richard, is this enough news to bring you to New York?
Yes. But in a way, it asks more questions than it answers for me. Now more than ever, I need to understand what role I am being trained for. I will take the train back to New Haven and do some investigations of my own. Thank you, Matt, for this. And most of all, I thank you for being there for Thomas. He is a great guy, a good friend, and he needs you. On the ride back to New Haven, I closed my eyes, trying to understand all I learned. All this all happened over 20 years ago, is an important part of American history. Why was this not taught? Through all my history classes in high school and American history political science at Duke, not one mention of any of this. This indicates someone has real power to be able to rewrite history, scrub all they don't want known. That does not happen by oversight. It is planned. That brings to mind a quote by President Roosevelt. In politics, if it happened, it was planned. I thought nothing is as it seems. Now more than ever, I believe that is the case. I also believe in the immutable laws of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. I intend to be that equal and opposite reaction. God willing, many others will join. For now, I better keep my mouth closed and my ears wide open.